Episode 3, Ida B. Wells, the journalist who fought for justice. Hey families, and welcome back to Black History for Us All. I'm Mrs. Deb, and I'm so glad you're here. Every day this month, we uncover stories of Black excellence, stories that deserve to be told and remembered. Because Black history isn't just for some of us, it's for all of us. Yesterday, we talked about John Lewis, the fearless civil rights leader who made good trouble his life's mission. Today, we go further back in time to meet a woman who risked everything to tell the truth about injustice. She was a journalist, an activist, and a fighter. Her name was Ida B. Wells. The early years of a future truth teller. Ida B. Wells was born on July 16, 1862 in Holly Springs, Mississippi, right in the middle of the Civil War. She was born enslaved, but when the war ended, her and her family were freed. Her parents believed deeply in the power of education, and Ida became one of the first Black women to attend college. But when she was just 16, tragedy struck. A yellow fever epidemic swept through her town, and in just a few days, both of her parents and her younger brother were gone. Ida was left to care for her 5 younger siblings, but instead of giving up, she fought harder. She took a job as a teacher to support her family, and at just 22 years old, she did something incredible. She sued a railroad company for forcing her to leave a whites-only train car. She won her case at first, but the decision was overturned later. Still, this fight lit a fire inside of her. Journalism as a weapon against injustice. Ida B. Wells realized something important. People needed to hear the truth about what was happening to Black Americans. So she picked up a pen and became a journalist. She began writing about segregation, racial violence, and inequality, using her words as a weapon against injustice. But in 1892, something happened that changed her life forever. 3 of her close friends, successful Black businessmen in Memphis, were lynched by an angry white mob. Devastated and furious, Ida made a decision. She would expose the truth about lynching in America. Back then, many newspapers spread the false idea that lynching was a punishment for crimes. But Ida dug up the facts. The truth was that most lynching victims were innocent Black people being terrorized for having success, speaking up, or just simply existing. She published her findings in newspapers and pamphlets, traveling the country to speak out against lynching. But this was dangerous work. So dangerous that an angry mob burned down her newspaper office while she was out of town. If she had been there, she would have been killed. But instead of being silenced, she kept going. A fearless life of activism. Forced to leave the South for her safety, Ida moved to Chicago, where she kept writing and fighting for justice. She helped start the National Association of Colored Women and was one of the founders of the NAACP. Though her contributions were often erased. But she didn't stop at writing. She also fought for women's rights. In 1913, during a major women's suffrage march in Washington, D.C., organizers tried to make Black women march in the back of the parade. Ida refused. She walked to the front, proving she wouldn't be pushed aside. Ida B. Wells spent her entire life demanding justice, truth, and equality. And in 2020, almost 90 years after her death, she was awarded a Pulitzer Prize, one of the highest honors in journalism. She didn't live to see how much she changed the world, but because of her, more people know the truth. The fight for truth never ends. Ida B. Wells teaches us an important lesson. Silence is never the answer. She refused to let injustice go unnoticed, and because of her, people started listening. So what can we do? Here are 3 ways to honor her legacy. Learn and share the truth. Just like Ida, we can spread knowledge and challenge justice. Stand up for what is right. If you see something wrong, don't look away. Celebrate Black women in history. Many have been erased, but their impact is still felt today. Want to dive deeper? Download today's free Ida B. Wells printable at heymissdeb.com/podcast. And if you love what you're learning, keep the podcast going at paypal.biz/heymrsdeb. Tomorrow, we step further back in time to meet a brilliant mathematician, astronomer, and inventor. A man who created one of America's first almanacs and even helped design the streets of Washington, D.C. That's right, Benjamin Banneker. You do not want to miss this one.